Okay, I'm honoured now to introduce my next artist on my show. Introducing a local artist musician from my region. We have Becca joining me on my show. How are we doing today, Becca?
Hiya.
Ha-
Hiya, I'm good, thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming on and doing this for me. It's great to have you on, especially as a local artist. I'm all for supporting local musicians.
Love that.
And how's your day going so far?
It's going well. I've just finished work, so my brain's all over the
Yeah,
place at the moment. But I'm
that's
having a
fine.
good day. Sun's shining, can't
That's good.
complain.
Yeah, the weather helps, doesn't it? When it's like this, it does elevate your mood. So I just want to ask you first, music. How long have you been into music for, and what was it like growing up with music?
So I never know how to answer this question because there's two parts to it. So I actually grew up in the church. My dad's a preacher, so music is something that I've been doing from literally birth. Because I used to go around and sing before my dad would preach. But I actually became like an artist and putting out songs myself in 2009. So it's been like 15 years now.
Oh wow, that's a long time. A good golden era that was, wasn't it? The 2000,
Yeah,
brilliant.
it really was.
And do you recall the experience? Do you recall the actual experience of going into that recording studio for the first time? What was that like?
Um, do you know what? I've always been very independent and done everything myself. So I haven't actually been into that many recording studios. My first experience of like, wow, I'm an artist now was actually doing a local talent competition in Redditch. And it was called Talent in the Town back in 2009. And believe it or not, like my first actual big performance was to an open air concert of 15,000 people. So for me, that kind of like was a baptism of fire of like, okay, you're really doing this now. So that was my first experience where I thought, yeah, I'm an artist now.
Mm, that's amazing. I was going to say as well, with the modern technology now, doing recording, you can actually do it from home. And during lockdown, a lot of people proved that, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, for me, lockdown didn't really impact me as much as it did other musicians. I'm very fortunate to like have a space in my own
Mm.
home where I can record. And I just think it did like a lot of people took it up and realized actually I don't really need to be going into studios. I can literally do this myself from home, study it, get the equipment, and put my music out myself independently. So I think that was definitely a positive of what came out of the experience.
Mm. Also, with this music business as well, we're seeing like a massive shift of artists going solo, independent. We proved that. Well, Ray proved that on the recent Brit Awards because she was dropped by her record label, and she's gone
Yeah.
independent and just swept the board at the Brits and done her own thing and just doing wonders for herself.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot to say on that.
Mm.
If anyone's seen my Twitter recently, I do have a lot to say on that. Only because I think yes, there are a lot of people going independent, but we also have to like recognize the difference between someone who started off independently and someone who's switched to being independent, because there is a difference between being on a major record label and then going independent,
Mm.
because a lot of the foundation work has already been done through a major label. Um, but we're seeing like artists like Little Sims and people like Central C who start off independent and then maybe like Central C went to a major after starting independently, and Little Sims has just stayed independent from the get go, whereas Ray has kind of taken the route of I've been signed to a major label and now I'm going independent.
Sure.
So there are different like dynamics of what being independent means to different artists. So I think that's also important to recognize, because what I don't want is for other independent artists to look at an artist like Ray and think and be a little bit disheartened of like, well, what why is it not working for me? But you have to remember you're starting from a different starting point if you've remained independent from the get-go. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I wanted to ask as well, in this industry as well, does luck have a lot of elements to it as well? Pot luck being in the right place, right time.
It does. It really does. It's sometimes it can be like just flip a coin whether it's going to work or not. But I also do have the mindset of you create your own luck, because I think the longer that you do something and like the better you become and the more you put out, you have more opportunity to be seen, and you're kind of shifting the balance where you're kind of making that luck happen yourself. There is an element of luck because again, it is right place, right time, who you know, hitting the right song in the right moment. But I still think that work hard and don't give up and keep putting out music, keep believing in what you're doing, and you will create your own look and it will work eventually.
Yeah, very constructive words there. I was chatting to one of my colleagues actually who works like producing, and I asked him like with the market being so competitive, like singers, DJs, and so on, a lot of people doing it now. And what's the best advice he could give? He says just stay in your own lane and keep on going. That's all you can do.
100%, 100%.
Right now, on to you now and your music. What's the feeling like when you hear your song being played on a radio station or just a high street store?
Do you know what? I still get excited. I've been doing it 15 years, but I still get so excited whenever I find out that my song's going to be played on radio. Because do you know what? It's it kind of like gives you that validation of, do you know what, actually people are listening to me, people do care about what I'm putting out into the world. And it is like every time I get a radio play, regardless of the station, I will still go and screen record it and share it, just because it means that much to me, because you put so much time and energy into it. And then to actually like reach that point where radio stations are playing it. I mean, the other day my wife was walking to work and she said someone was blasting my song out their car, and to me it's like, wow, like people are actually listening and it means the most.
And you're based in Worcestershire, northwest Worcestershire area.
I am, yeah. I was born in Redditch, but I now live in Kidderminster.
Okay, brilliant. Because I was going to ask you, Kidderminster as well had some great exports of late. Of course, Becky Hill, she was like the dance queen, and there's another
Yes,
DJ, Emily Nash. She worked in a supermarket, then went on
yes.
to do like gigs, like big venues. So, what do you think of the scene around your area? Do you think we should have more live music venues? In the area like Worcestershire, Birmingham. Do you think it's
Yeah, I
hard?
mean, I think Kidderminster, Worcestershire, I'll speak on Kidderminster first because I think Kidderminster has a very vibrant music community. Just the other day, I was at an open mic venue, at a venue called 45 Live.
Mhm.
They put on a lot of live music events. And I think the music scene in Kidderminster specifically is very vibrant, but for me, it is still very boxed in terms of the genres. I think there could be a bit more diversity in terms of the genres that get to play live in these venues. Um, but I think Worcestershire as a whole, we do have a very vibrant music scene in comparison to a lot of other counties, I would say. I just think maybe it just needs a bit more publicising, really, because we do have a lot of talent here. But it seems like we're very like boxed in, and if you're from here, you know, but if you're not, you don't really know. And I think that's where the disconnect is at the moment.
Yes, I feel you because I know your area quite well, actually, very well. And I know it's like, you've got to get a train to like
Yeah,
Birmingham and then they stop running after a certain time.
yeah.
Um, then now I was going to talk about like, would you say like you're a rap artist? Is that kind of your main forte?
Yeah, now it is, yeah.
Brilliant. And I was going to ask you, how do you put all your songs together? Is it quite hard, to just like write a song? Is there an art to it?
Um, there's definitely an art to it, but for me, it kind of comes natural now. I think because I've been doing it for so long, I've kind of like cracked my own code. So for me now, songs don't take me very long to write, probably maybe 20 minutes max, because I just have something to say usually. I won't force myself to write if I'm not feeling inspired. And I think that's also very important. So I will hear something, I'll hear like a riff or I'll hear a beat that I like, and suddenly it will just tap into an emotion and the words will just flow.
Mm.
It hasn't always been that way, but I just think now from doing it for so long, it's come like second nature to me. So I kind of know when I need to
Mm.
write as well. And
Mm.
I'll just sit in the studio and be like, right, I need to get something off my chest. And then it will all just flow.
I mean, how do you feel about hip hop, like rap music in general? Do you think it's like Marmite still, like people can either take it or leave it, or do you think it has kind of evolved and appealed to people of all ages?
That's a very good question. I think it's definitely evolved. And I'm seeing more and more different, like diverse types of people being drawn into rap music nowadays, especially like when I perform live. I'm usually shocked at the people in the audience who are actually like really feeling what I'm doing, because obviously coming from Worcestershire, it's not usually the demographic that would listen to typically rap music. But I tend to find like all people kind of warm to what I'm doing at the moment, and I think that's a testament to where rap music has kind of taken it over the years.
That's amazing. It's good to have a rapport with the audience, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And going back to your songwriting, I respect anyone who can like rhyme words together. That's a talent in itself. Do you ever use like a rhyming thesaurus, or are you quite good with like being witty with words?
I'm very good with my words. I love the English language
Mm.
and I've studied the English language. Actually got my first English GCSE at 14 years old, and that was English language. But I do on occasion, if I'm hitting like a stumbling block and I'm like, there's this rhyme that I want, but I can't find it. I will use a rhyming dictionary, but it's kind of like a last resort to me. I don't like rely on it. I'll always try and like figure out the word and the patterns myself first before I'll go down that route. But there's nothing wrong with using a rhyming dictionary at all.
Yeah, they are handy when they need to be used, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, true. And going back to like gigging around the area, do you do gigs yourself? Do you find it quite hard to get gigs these days?
I don't find it difficult to get gigs. I just think it's difficult to find like high production value gigs. And that is a pet peeve of mine in the industry, if I'm being completely honest, is that unless you've kind of got a big name for yourself already, it's difficult to get the better shows, even if like what you can bring to the table is great. Unless you've obviously got that name, those kinds of bookings will go elsewhere. I just think there are a lot of gigs. It's easy to get on gigs, but it's just they're very much like your open mic kind of gigs, and that's not really what I really want to be
Mm.
doing now after 15 years.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's yeah.
That's understandable. And are you basically, as I say, based in Worcestershire, are you happy to travel further afield, to do your performances?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a couple months ago now. I went to Box Park in Wembley on a Wednesday, had work 8 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, and I just went down there, performed, didn't get home till 2 in the morning. But yeah, you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day.
That's amazing. And is it good to see so many female rappers breaking it through, keeping it real at the moment?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Female rappers inspired me to take up rapping in the first place, seeing that representation. And obviously, seeing so many coming through now and so many females saying, do you know what? Rapping isn't just a male thing. Us females can do it and we can do it in our own way. I love to see it.
I did put a little list of female rappers over the years. You mentioned Wembley. Lady Sovereign was a lady from that
Yes,
neck of the woods. And then today we've got a bit
yes,
of Coil Ray and
yes.
even a bit of Doja
We've
Cat
got,
and Tyler as well. Any others who are on your radar?
yeah, I'm actually seeing Doja Cat and Nicki Minaj this year. So I'm
Cool.
very excited about that. I would say Christelle is doing really, really well. Um, I recently went to an event and saw a female rapper by the name of Rosata K from Coventry. She is really good too. Um, there's so many, to be honest. The list is endless. Bryn from London, I think she's incredible. Um, and obviously, I'll always shout out Lady Leisha because she's one of the first females who inspired me to take up rapping.
And who would you like to collab with? Collaborations? Anyone on your list?
Oh, yes. I'd love to collaborate with Stormzy. I say this all the time. I just think me and Stormzy, the way we approach music is very similar. And I think we'd create a really great work of art working together. Also, Central C. I really love his sound. I love the way he markets himself. I think we could come up with something really cool together. And in terms of females, I would love to work with Bryn. I think she's one to watch, definitely. I think she's got a really bright future.
Nice. And onto your new single as well. It's called Sneakers. Of course, sneakers is a footwear people, like to put on their
Yes.
feet. But what's Sneakers your song about?
So, in short, sneakers. This year, I finally got a mental health diagnosis, and this is a song that I felt really kind of represented how I felt like mentally in my headspace. And this is a song that I wrote a whole year before I got my diagnosis. Um, and it gave me a lot of comfort when I had that diagnosis. And for me, I just feel like we live in an age where we're taught as artists to kind of just show the good things. Like social media is very much about show all the positive parts of your life, don't show people all the negatives. Um, but for me, that's not how I want to live. Like, I want Sneakers to be a song that gives other people hope to see that, do you know what? There's people out there who are going through similar things to me. We all have the same thoughts and feelings. Don't judge a book by its cover because we literally all have something that we're going through, whether we choose to share that or not. So for me, Sneakers is about walk a mile in my shoes. And I think if we all took time to walk a mile in each other's shoes and understand where we're all coming from, I just think the world would be a much more caring and understanding place. So for me, that's what sneakers is about.
Very well said as well. Onto the melody as well. It's got a familiar melody in the background. Obviously, the Fugees covered that melody, Ready or Not, and Mario Winans. But I believe it was originally done by Enya Boadicea, that little tune.
Yes, it was actually Enya Boadicea, and for me, a lot of people overlook that it actually came from Enya. A lot of people think that it came from the Fugees, but it actually didn't. Enya is an incredible artist in her own right, and I love that sample. And I'm just so blessed that I got to actually perform on that sample, and I just hope I did it justice.
Amazing. Also, I'd like to add what I like about your rapping is I really feel your emotion coming through, and also as a rapper, it's important that the listener can hear what they're like vocalizing and saying, pronouncing the words
Yeah.
clearly, and you do that.
Yeah, I think for me, I try to make my rap as accessible to as many different people. I'm not one of these artists who like zones in on my target audience. I just want my music to be accessible to whoever you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what sexual preference you are. I feel like music is universal, and I try to make my music as universal as possible.
And with the sneakers, have you done a music video to accompany the single yet?
Oh, not yet, but it's in the works. It's in the pipeline.
Oh, that's good. So watch out for that one. And also,
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, going back to rap music, it kind of evolved from the late 70s into the 80s. If you had to pick like an old school hip hop track, I can give you a list out of these. What would you choose? I've got Nina Cherry, Buffalo Stance.
Hmm.
Of course, there's Salt and Pepper, Push It, and
Hmm.
bit of Queen Latifah as well. Any of them who have inspired you?
Do you know what? It's very difficult for me to choose older tracks because obviously I grew up in the church
Mm,
and my upbringing was very strict. So I actually wasn't introduced to what we call secular music until 2007
mm,
time. For me, my knowledge of music before that time is very, very limited.
mm,
Obviously, I've heard these tracks, but they won't have had an influence on me because I was never allowed to listen to music that wasn't gospel music.
mm,
So my early influences would have been like Tiny Temper and Dubs, Rihanna,
mm.
Sierra, because those were the artists who at that time were coming up. So I can't really choose out of that list, but it's not out of choice. It's out of I wasn't allowed.
That's fine. I mean, that list there was old school. But when you're saying about the golden era of the 2000s as well, looking back,
Yeah.
you look back at music 20 years, 40 years ago, whatever, and it's timeless, isn't it? Those tracks do live on.
It really is.
Mm.
I love that era, but I feel like I'm old when I say that now because everyone says that in my golden day, music was the best. Everyone says that. Everyone thinks that, but I truly think that. But yeah,
And I wanted to ask, you've got a website as well. Would you like to just share that with myself and my listeners?
yeah. My website is www.beka.co.uk, and that is spelt Bravo Echo Kilo Alpha Hotel. I even gave it you in
Fantastic.
the phonetic alphabet.
Fantastic. Becca, I just want to say thank you for joining me on today's show. It's been really a pleasure having you on and interesting. I think this is my first interview with a rap artist, so I've found this really intriguing and interesting and
No,
very
thank you for
informative as
having
well.
me.
And we'll get one of your tracks, we'll get Sneakers on the show now. Would you like to introduce it on? This is the Dance and Radio Show.
Hi, you're listening to the Dan Summer Radio Show, and I am Becca, and you're listening to my latest single, Sneakers.
Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.